Are you as excited as I am to be here? It is so good to see everyone in person after such a long time. And one of the reasons we are being able to be here in person is because of the wonderful ways our community responded to guidance from CDC, guidance from our healthcare professionals, by being one of the most vaccinated campus in the country. You did it all together by looking out for each other, taking care of each other, supporting each other throughout the pandemic, and then stepping up and doing your part. That is the reason we are being able to be here together. So kudos to all of you. I think you all deserve a round of applause. My name is Ravi Pendse. I have the privilege to serve as the Vice President for Information Technology and Chief Information Officer at this great institution. What that means is I actually work for all of you. And thank you for giving me that privilege. Welcome in person for this distinguished lecture series, Leadership in Technology. And the purpose of this series is to really bring transformational technology leaders to our campus to have a conversation with us, for us to learn their vision and their ideas about the future of technology. And hopefully that will spur a dialogue among ourselves where together we'll be able to enrich our brilliant students, our amazing faculty members, and our most innovative staff colleagues across. So that's the purpose of this series. So it's such a pleasure to have you all here together. Now, obviously, during the pandemic, we recognized it, and we recognized it before as well, how dependent all of us have been on connectivity and access, and especially Wi-Fi connectivity. I'm happy to report to you that in partnership with HPE, Michigan is implementing Wi-Fi 6E. When completed, that'll be the largest deployment in the country of Wi-Fi 6E at any organization here. So you all are doing it here on our campus. And Andy Palms is there, so I want to give him a shout out. And there are several people from the HPE team here. So thank you all for your partnership in helping us accomplish that. And a special shout out to Jennifer here, who is a proud Michigan alum. And she was so excited that Antonio was coming here to her campus, as she put it. So Jennifer, thank you for your efforts as well in bringing Antonio here. When we hear the words such as global to edge cloud platform as a service company, we know that HPE is driving that vision and that innovation and thought leadership around it. Antonio Neri, who serves as the president and CEO of Hewlett Packard Enterprise, which is responsible for development and delivery of enterprise technology, solutions, and services that help organizations accelerate outcomes by unlocking the value of data from everywhere and anywhere. And that is their vision. How can we access that data from anywhere and everywhere? And how can they provide that platform to us from cloud to edge? During his 25 plus years at HP first, and then Hewlett Packard Enterprise now, Antonio held numerous leadership positions. I'm sure you have already seen his absolutely impressive bio data. So I'm not going to repeat all of that, but I just want to share a few things. Within HP and HPE, Antonio was responsible for leading teams that delivered many breakthrough innovations. So he was kind of considered the innovation person at HPE. He was also instrumental in many of HPE's acquisitions and integrations, including Aruba Networks. A shout out to Kirti Melkote, if he's hearing this. Kirti was the founder of Aruba and a dear friend of mine. And of course, Silicon Graphics, Cray, and on and on. And Antonio was in the middle of all of those acquisitions and integrations. Philanthropy is very close to Antonio's heart. And he takes special interest in supporting the efforts of American Red Cross. Health and wellness and mental health is also top of mind for Antonio. We just celebrated Mental Health World Day yesterday, and it's great that we have Antonio here today. And we'll have a chance to talk about that also. In addition, he strongly encourages his leadership team to be active in all the social causes that they believe in. He encourages that throughout the company, which is great. Antonio is not all just engineer. He actually loves art and architecture, and he personally selected the artist and worked with the artist to design a statue that stands today in their California office that talks about the past, future, past, present, and future. So he's instrumental in that. He loves Japanese and Korean films. Martial art movies are his favorite. And just like many of us, he is a Bruce Lee fan, as I understand. He's also a huge soccer fan, and we'll potentially have a chance to talk about that as well as we have the conversation. And before I invite Antonio to come on the stage, I also want to share with you that there is a special connection between Hewlett Packard and Michigan. And that special connection, some of you may know this, but I was not aware of it. And I learned about it through this process. Actually, Jennifer was kind enough to share that information with me, because Jennifer has family connections here going back, as she put it, 200 years, 5 generations or so, or more. But Albion Walter Hewlett was the second chief of medicine at our UM's Michigan Medicine between 1908 and 1916, and a cardiovascular physiologist who used polygraph machines to measure cardiovascular activity. He's considered the father of cardiology, actually, and had great interest in technology. His son, Bill Hewlett, founded Hewlett Packard in a garage with David Packard. As we now know, the technology interest for Bill Hewlett came from his dad, who has a named professorship after him at University of Michigan. So as usual, amazing things that happen in the world have a Michigan connection again. So go blue on that count. So without any further delay, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce Antonio Neri, an innovative CEO, a caring and compassionate leader, and a dear friend of mine, and a Michigan Wolverine fan. So, Antonio, please join me at the stage. Great to see you. Antonio, welcome. It's been a long time coming, and we're so thrilled to have you here.
Well,
Thank you for joining us. Absolutely. And I just wanted to share with our audiences that as we have this conversation, rather than waiting for your questions near the end, throughout the conversation, I'll be periodically coming to you. So if you have some questions for Antonio, start thinking about those questions. And I know we have a couple of people who will bring the microphones to you. So do please speak in the microphone, since this is also being live streamed, so that people in the live stream can hear this. So we'll be coming to you shortly as we have this conversation together. So Antonio, to get started, I know you have quite an interesting upbringing. Your parents were, you're son of 2 Sicilian parents, but actually born in Argentina.
Yes.
Did a military apprenticeship at age 13. So all types of interesting backgrounds. So can you share with us how that upbringing has shaped what you are today?
Sure. Well, first of all, Ravi, it's great to be here with you, and thank you for the friendship and the partnership with Hewlett Packard Enterprise. We're so proud to enable the next journey here of transformation in Michigan. But my stories, I think, is one of those stories that probably available everywhere. It's just maybe not being told. I'm a son of 2 immigrant Sicilians that actually got married without knowing each other. My father was in Argentina, and they told my mom, "You have to go meet your husband there." And they were happily married for 50 plus years until my father passed away. But I was born and raised in Argentina, although I had a period of time where I lived in Italy when they went back for 5 years. And at an early age, I had this curiosity and interest in technology. But at the time, when you think about the early 80s, there was not a lot of means to do that. And the only way for me to get access to the latest was to join a military base, not as a military individual, but as a civilian. And I went to the middle school there, where they taught you an apprenticeship. So that's why I believe in apprenticeship quite a bit. And I did my 3 years of middle school in the base. And unfortunately, an event happened. If you recall, 1982, there was a war between Argentina and England about the Falklands Island. So I was in the middle of that. So I got to experience, an unfortunate event, which taught you a lot about lessons in life. But from there on, I continued to work there for a period of time, and then I finished my high school while I was working full time, and then I joined a company called Exxon, which is in Argentina, it's called ESO. And I was able to get access to more technology. And my story is about learning while you study, and it makes you very strong, resilient, but also gives you a sense of appreciation for what you can accomplish when you put your mind on. And from there on, obviously, there is a longer journey after that.
That's terrific, and it resonates with me because a lot of my colleagues here are aware that I was raised by a very, very strong mother, and she taught me to always see a teacher in everyone I interact with. And I recall you have said, for example, that your goal is to continue to learn and be relentlessly curious every day. That's what you said.
You have to. Otherwise, you become irrelevant very quickly, especially in technology. The passion to constantly learn every single day from the people around you, right? And have a group of people that are as passionate as you, and ultimately get them advanced through their own careers is something that I really care. And I have to say, you're as good as the people you have around you, right? So, but the day I stop learning is the day I'm done. Basically, there is nothing more for me to do. But that's not soon.
I think that's a great point. And what I'm here to tell you is there are many Michigan students here and the Michigan students are brilliant, and they learn every single day.
Well, I have the best chief communication officer, Jennifer.
There you go. Absolutely. We are very proud of all our students and alums. But continuing that conversation, as you have learned all these things, all these years by being curious, what advice would you give yourself, if you could, when you're 20 years old, looking at it from now?
Yeah, I mean, in my life, not everything went smoothly. You have to take risk. As an example, I was working for ESSO, a great American company doing business in South America. I used to manage the downstream distribution on the information technology side. I implemented the first PLC system in Argentina when it came down to downstream production in that country. And then, I had a good life. I was paying dollars. If you live in those countries, the hyperinflation and the devaluation of the peso makes you do things in a different way. But then I came to a realization that this is not what I want to do. This is not where my full potential will be achieved. And so I moved, and I had to start all over again, as a lover job and find my way. And then eventually I moved to Holland because I met a girl. Always a girl, takes you to different places. And that's when I joined HP at the time in 1995. And again, I started all over again. I became a call center agent supporting customers on the phone. But to me, is that you got to be bold. You have to have a vision for yourself, and you have to establish clear milestones how to get there. And at the same time, you and I were chatting before we came here, is not forget about having fun along the way. And, I had fun in my life learning, but also in my personal life. So I'm a privilege because I got to work with some amazing people who took the chance on me. And that's part of the SEO role, is to plan succession, is to bring people along, because the fact of the matter, I'm not different in life, and I'm very pragmatic. You're in transition here. So how long that transition is, God bless you. Hopefully you go over 100 years. But in business, those transitions are very short. And so people took chances on me, like the first job as a call center agent. I was very strong technically. At the time, there were the technology, the PC client server. You had, Novell, Go Unix, Bay&Vine, stuff that people don't even think today. And I spoke Italian and Spanish, which are my two main languages. But my English was terrible. In fact, I did the test, basically, what was my proficiency in English, and I failed the test. And the British Jamaican hiring manager said, hell with that. We just need to have him support Italian and Spanish customers. We would teach him English. And if it was not for him, I would not be here. And 23 years later, I became the president CEO of the company. So that's lesson in life. You have to be bold. You have to be aspirational, but put goals for yourself and do what you say. And then obviously learn throughout the process, and then take chances on people along the way. Because again, those are the relationship you will carry for the rest of your life.
That's a great advice, Antonio, because as we are struggling with talent acquisition right now,
Yeah.
finding talented people is very challenging. They're in high demand as we look at recruiting great people. And so giving people chance and looking at the whole person as opposed to one box that maybe this
Exactly
person
right.
doesn't speak English versus something else is such an important advice for all of us. So obviously, from a call center employee customer support kind of position to CEO. That's a pretty amazing journey in the 25 years or so. So did you, the day one you became a call center employee, did you write at the back of your napkin that I'm going to be CEO of this company someday?
No,
So
no.
what was the journey like? Help us
Yeah.
understand some of the transition points along the way if you could.
No, I wanted to be a general manager. I got exposed to HP at the time, and at the time, Lou Platt was the CEO of the company. And I got exposed to the culture of the company, to the innovation of the company, and then how things got done inside the company. And I quickly realized one day I would like to be a general manager of one of the business units, because the business unit structure inside the company at the time had a lot of the power. I call it ropes to the ground, from the strategy to the product roadmap to the engineering to the execution to the sales force. And I said, I want to do that job. But obviously, things change along the way, and being in the right place at the right time with people around you that obviously teach you a lot of things. But throughout the journey, I took a lot of risk, because first I was in Amsterdam. I moved to Boise, Idaho. Okay, that's a big change.
No kidding, right?
Yeah, it's a big change. But I got to work with the brightest mind who created an amazing franchise, which is called HP LaserJet. Probably most of you have an HP LaserJet somewhere in the office or in your house. And so there I learned a lot about innovation. Innovation, particularly through an ecosystem with partners. Then, 2004, somebody came from the Compaq business, because by then the Compaq merger with HP have taken place under Carly Fiorina, and said, you have a lot of expertise on the services side. We would like you to help fix the PC services business. HP LaserJet was making 20% profit. HP PC were losing money. So let me think about it. Do I take that job? But I said, if I can fix that, I can actually make a contribution, and that should be a base where I can spring to the next job. We did. We actually made, in the mid 2008 to the 2010, the number one PC franchise in the world. And I opened new opportunity to run the business inside the company called HP Point Next, which is all about consulting and advisory, and as well as professional services and running services, IT services. Then, Mac came along and said, I need someone to run the compute business and the networking business. And so I took over that. And then she said, well, I need someone to run the enterprise business. And eventually I need someone to run the company. So along the way, and obviously my engineering background kind of facilitates a lot of the thinking behind. But in the end, I had to move laterally before I moved forward. And that worked out great, I will say. But that said, there is a lot of lessons there that you need to apply in the way you run the company going forward. And one of the lessons is make the organization simpler. And that's something that I have been on a journey for the last 3 years. And we have the flattest organization on the planet that you can imagine. Between me and one of my sales reps is only 2 layers. So I get to see the truth, what's happening, versus going through many, many, many layers.
And that allows you to be closest to your customers that you care and value so much. Yeah, there you go. That's great advice about taking risks along the way, taking calculated risks, and jumping in to help a business that perhaps was struggling to fix it, as you put it, to much greater scales. Let me see if there are any questions from the audience before we continue our conversation. Are there any questions from the audience? Because I know Stephanie has some.
There is one
so
there.
Let's go here if you can identify yourself, there's a microphone coming to you.
Hi there. My name is Tamai. I'm an MBA student here at University of Michigan. Also a former engineer. So I was kind of curious, what led you down the CEO path as opposed to like the technology side, being like a CTO or like a product officer?
Yeah. Well, part of the reasons because when I work with Meg Whitman, which is a dear friend of mine, she felt that this company, after the big transformation she drove in 2015, which resulted in the split of the company, right? So you have HP Inc., which is the PC and printers, and Hewlett Packard Enterprise, which is more the connectivity, cloud, and data company. She felt this is the time for a technologist to run the company. And my background, obviously, in engineering and technology was well suited at the time. And this is what is important, realizing there is different times for different leadership styles. And Meg came to the company in a very difficult time in 2011. That time, the company was a $110 billion company, which had a lot of debt in the balance sheet. She had to reverse that. She had to position the company into the future, which basically said, we don't want to be an IT supermarket company. We want to be a very focused company and compete and win their own merits. That's why the split was done. But after that was done, Hewlett Packard Enterprise is a very technology-heavy oriented company. And she felt technologists needed to run the company who understood the culture. That's the other big piece of this. And so, for me, obviously being CEO is a privilege, especially when you lead a company that has Hewlett and Packard in the brand. But at the same time, it's a big responsibility to make sure this company is relevant for the next decades. And that's what we're doing with the implementation of the vision to become an edge-to-cloud company. That ultimately is all about driving data modernization first, because we live in a digital economy and all the outcomes come from the data. And so that to me was an opportunity to make a difference. And normally CEO tenures are numbered. And I'm well on my way to complete that journey with an amazing team, which ultimately will be the legacy you want to leave. But to me, the legacy is about the culture. In the end, it starts and ends with the culture.
Very good. Thank you, Antonio.
I think there's one.
Are there any other questions? There's one here in the front. Okay, one there. Okay, then we'll come back to you. Go ahead, please.
Hi. First of all, thank you for taking the time out.
Sure.
I have a two-part question. You mentioned the HP Compaq merger. You mentioned you were in the printing business that time. First of all, at that time, how did you feel about the merger? And in hindsight, was it a good decision or not?
I think it was the right decision. Did we execute it to the full potential of it? No. But you think about at the time, you talk about early 2000, what were the trends, right? And we were in the midst of the internet boom, right? We are in the midst of where PCs were absolutely taking off. And then we're still living in the early phases of the PC client, although moving into a more cloud-oriented journey. Where we failed, I will say, and this is always easy to say after that happened, we did not execute to the full potential of the cloud opportunity. We came actually with a lot of the concept about the cloud. We came with a lot of the concept around converged infrastructure, software-defined architectures, but we did not execute it to the full potential. The idea was there. It was the right idea because you can scale, particularly on the back-end infrastructure, to a position nobody else had, and also on the PC side. HP at the time was very strong in Unix, but not in the x86. And then we were strong on the PC, but not on the mobile side. So the combination was right, but it was not executed to the full potential. And then there were other things that play along the way, a little bit of drama with board and governance, which obviously has been written. But ultimately, it's when you're convicted, you got to be relentless on that execution. As I am convicted today, that the next journey of this is going to be all about connectivity, cloud, and data, and customers need an edge-to-cloud architecture where they can consume every service from the single point of and click. And ultimately, we need to position customers to extract every bit of insight from that data. And I actually argue, in a few years from now, we're going to have data, recorded in the balance sheet because it's the most precious asset you have today. So yeah, good idea, but I wish we executed better throughout.
We'll take one more question from the audience before we continue our discussion. I think you had your hand up here. And then Kelly,
And I know there is one on the very, very, very back.
so we'll come back to you in a few minutes, but we'll go to this young woman right here. If you can identify yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Jen, and I work for information assurance for Ravi's organization. You talked about learning and how important that is. I completely sort of learning. You also talked about taking risks, but sometimes we fail and we take risks. Good way to learn, painful. I'd be interested in hearing thoughts on,
Yeah.
how you take the lessons from.
Well, I have a simple philosophy. You have to be vulnerable first. And even myself, right? I mean, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes like everyone else. I'm trying to make the least amount of mistakes and have a contingency plan if we make a mistake. But that said, we have done a great job in the company, but it's a journey on establishing a culture that's purpose-driven, right? So our company purpose to advance the way people live and work. That's why we exist, and to make a contribution. And the way we do that is by engineering experiences that unlock your full potential. And we have 4 core beliefs that we're trying to practice every single day. We believe in accelerating what is next. This is all about speed. The world is moving to an incredible speed that we have never seen before, and technology is accelerating every industry today. So being there with the customers and accelerating what is next, just take an example where we're doing with Andy and Ravi here. The first step is to deploy the right infrastructure. You got to be connected, but ultimately it's what we do with that is through the analytics and the data, provide better experiences to faculties, to students, to everyone. So we are just at the beginning of this. But accelerating what is next is one of our core beliefs. Second is we believe in bold moves. And this is where courage over comfort comes to play all the time. I'd rather take in the hiring of talent someone with the best attitude than the perfect skills. I take all day long someone that is passionate, has the best attitude at the right time in the right job. We will get the skills fully completed. And to me, that speaks a lot. But courage over comfort is something that we're trying to instill. Third one is, yes, we can. The power of yes, we can. And there is one core belief we're trying to practice all the time, is we before the I. Because, I mean, I can't do everything alone. And the we as a group, plays a big role. And the team, the collaboration, the diversity and the inclusion, the different opinions, right? But once we commit, we have to go. So there's the debate, and obviously including people is important, but once we commit, we go, right? And that's super important. And then last but not least, which is close to our heritage and DNA, is being a force for good. We are as good as working with the communities. Remember, this is a global company with 60,000 team members in 172 countries. Ultimately, we have to give back to the communities, right? It's not just for the sake of profit. And those 4 values are supported by our cultural DNA, which is partner, innovate, and act. Those are the 3 things, with an uncompromising integrity. That's the thing, we win only the right way. And so that's why the structure of the organization is important. The lead by the example is important. And you have to encourage people to take risks and make mistakes and reward mistakes, because that means somebody was not sitting on the sideline watching the game being played, get in the game and play the game. So those are things, that's why I said it starts and ends with culture. And transformations are not for everyone, right? And that's why it's important as a leader, you position people in the right place. You need people to stay focused on executing every day. You need some people that are more venture in taking some risk and help you with the transformation.
I think that was terrific advice, Antonio. At Michigan, I'm proud to share that, and this was very evident during the pandemic, that the entire campus community, and especially the campus IT community, had a one Michigan IT campus feel. That was our culture, where we're going to work together and we're going to support this campus. And everybody stepped up with agility, with relentless drive towards focusing on customers and helping our community. So I couldn't be more proud of the entire Michigan IT community, and that's the kind of ways that they executed. They focused and they executed, and we took risks as well. So great advice. Appreciate that. And we'll come back to you. Another few more questions. I'll come back to you in a minute. But since you talked about the social good and the responsibility to do something in the community, I thought I've heard you talk about the importance of using technology to create a more equitable society. I've heard you talk about that. So can you talk a little bit more about that, and what should be doing, Michigan be doing to address that challenge, potentially in partnership with you and your organization?
I think there's a lot of opportunities. Obviously, the concept of ESG, environmental social governance, is now taking hold more and more, probably accelerated by what we saw in the last 18 months. All the social challenges, hatred, the diversity challenges we went through, obviously the pandemic itself. But investors are becoming way more sophisticated where they want to invest. They want to invest not just for the sake of profit, they want to invest in companies that have a long-term vision of how to make the world better, to solve some of the biggest societal problems we are dealing with. And think about it, we live in a digital economy, right? So think about what happened in the pandemic. If you were not connected, you were very isolated, right? And so the challenge and the opportunity is that we have some amazing technologies. We have to make it ubiquitous, and we have to make it accessible to everyone. But when you look at the United States, it's kind of fascinating at the beginning of the pandemic. Yes, a lot of companies were somewhat ready to go work from home on a remote environment, but a lot of areas in the United States have no connectivity. And here is the #1 power in the world. And you have areas in the United States that had no connectivity. Let me give you an example. We had a school that had no connectivity. And so we, with the Aruba team, we deploy Wi-Fi connectivity in the parking lot so the parents can drive the students to the parking lot to download the work, go home, finish the work, come back, upload the work. That's insane. That's completely insane. Think about it. 2021. You think, the latest technologies like cruise ship who have technology they can use. We have to retrofit cruise ships to make mobile hospitals so that we can treat COVID patients on cruise ships. Those are a great example, but the fact of the matter is that we now need to avoid creating a digital divide. This is the problem we may run into it. Great technology, accessible to only the few privileged. And this is where I work very closely with the World Economic Forum, and I lead a champion CEO group of people that focus around inclusion and diversity with technology enablement to make sure that we provide the right framework and the right access, particularly those companies don't have the means to it. And there is, obviously, with academia, we have to partner all day long. We think about the COVID research. We made available all our supercomputer power that we had and all our patents to accelerate the research for the COVID vaccine. Think about it. The fact that we got the vaccine in 9 months is remarkable. Normally, it will take a couple of years, right? And so technology has a big responsibility. We as leaders have to think about those issues and think about sustainability in mind, equity in mind. And it can be done. It can be done, but you have to have a will to do it. The problem is a lot of companies get under pressure to deliver the next quarter, and the next quarter. When I became CEO, I said, we have to say what we do. If I tell you I'm going to do 2, I'm going to do 2, but I'm going to think long term while I never forget the fact that we have to advance the way people live and work. And that's something that I wish we can do it faster, because, the generation we see here, they're demanding different things than when we grew up.
Very well said. And the issues around connectivity and access came to light when obviously this campus went fully online, fully remote. And we had situations where we had not only students, but staff members, faculty members who to your point, lived in certain areas where there were no connectivity options or good connectivity options, let's just say, or in other cases, simply connectivity was something that one couldn't afford, depending on the areas that you came from. So the parking lot, that example you gave, was actually played out in this campus, where our team stepped up and significantly enhanced Wi-Fi coverages across parking lots and other areas to provide whatever access we could. But the access is definitely a huge issue. One positive note on that, and I'm very thrilled that the county we live in, Washington County, with the federal dollars that are coming, they have decided to invest those federal dollars. You might have read about it already, to actually provide full connectivity across Washington County, independent of the zip code. So what we have done proactively is actually reached out to the county and said, how can we help? So our teams are going to be engaged with them to provide any technical assistance or whatever assistance we can provide to ensure that the entire Washington County has connectivity. And I wish more such initiatives would be needed across the nation and beyond. And I agree with you, number one country in the world. And I mean, why do we have access issues? And we, as the leaders and colleagues and technologists, do have responsibility to respond and do the right thing. So I agree with you there. I know there were some additional questions here. So Kelly, I'm going to go to you first, and then somebody in the back had a question as well. So could we get the microphone here, and then somebody in the back, please, after that.
Hi, and thank you for spending this time with the University of Michigan. And I was really fascinated about and wanted to learn more about the journey of flattening the organization, and how you led that change. Middle managers are often thought of as connecting the staff back to mission. And so I can tell culture is very important to you. So how did you?
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. I think it comes from part of what you learn throughout the years, and part is your instincts. There is always this fear, well, if I change that, I remove that layer, everything is going to go bad. We're not going to have people, in control of the situation. Actually, I argue nothing bad happened. In many ways, positive, because now the people underneath the structure, they can see the interaction almost real time. So, this morning I met with the team here. I get to talk to them like I talk to my direct reports, and I'm being very authentic and candid with everything going on. They love that. But what happens is that we used to call it, we have a frozen middle. Actually, it's more a frozen mindset, because between here and here, the top obviously has a view and a strategy and a vision, and the bottom are excited about that. The question is how we eliminate all the friction in the middle, and we empower the managers to do what is right for the customers. And then ultimately, we at the top get to see that real time as much as possible. We used to have a structure in the company, in the sales organization, that had a worldwide, a region, a sub-region, and a country. By the time I get the forecast from the country, it was 4 layers. Everybody judged it, and conservatives built everywhere. And in the end, that was not the way to execute the business. So I said, we eliminate everything. We have a sales leader with 10 geos. That's it. Done. Well, first of all, it's a cost benefit, because then I don't have to pay all these overhead. But what it really shows is that actually you empower the people to do the right thing, and most importantly, you get the truth, which is, I say, the truth is in the cold face when you talk to customers, like I do with Ravi. And yesterday I was with partners in Atlanta, same thing. When I have those conversations, and I spend more than 50% of my time talking to customers and partners, I get the insight I need. So then I go back to the innovation roadmap. We don't wait months and years. I just get it quickly. Yesterday I learned 3 things. This morning I had emotion. This morning I learned a couple of things, and it will be emotion this afternoon. Speed matters. Speed matters. And ultimately you fulfill that over time. But it is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. But because you're coming within the company, you have a different followership and a more kind of implied support, versus coming from outside and say, I'm going to change everything. The fact that I know the company the way I do, and I know every system, every process, is a good thing, a bad thing, because when they come with me, it's, we're going to do this thing. No, why are you doing that? Use that tool. is unusual for a CEO, because normally CEOs tends to work with the board and strategy. I get to do both, and that's why it's fun. And I love interacting with people. That's what I do. So if you have an idea and you think you can be bold to change and simplify the organization, my only push to you, go do it. Nothing bad is going to happen. Trust me.
So Kelly, you heard it here now. So, and I also heard loud and clear, this is to my Michigan ID colleagues, that speed matters.
Yeah.
So I just want to remind you. So thank you. That was great. I know there was a question in the back. If you can get the microphone way back there, please.
Hi, I'm Victoria Green. Antonio, thank you so much for coming to speak to us today. I want to pick up on something you said early on about relentless curiosity. Like many people in technology, I do love that sort of chasing down of understanding and mastering a single subject, to understand the intricacies and the ins and outs of how something works. But it seems to me that as we progress in our careers, sometimes we have to know a little bit about a lot of things rather than understanding one thing in depth. And I wonder if you could talk about the tension you've seen between those two strains as you've progressed in your career.
Yeah, well, thank you, Victoria. I think it goes back to the question that he asked a little bit before, right? Which is basically, when you are in the engineering career path, you love the technology, you want to know how things works and trying to innovate around that. But what I learned over the years is that, okay, that's great, but what is it going to do for the customer? What outcome is going to result? What outcome is going to deliver? And we are on that journey. One of the things that if you're strong on the engineering side, you have to learn what value brings to the customer. And when we think about roadmaps here in our company, right, there is the strategy part of it, which is, okay, this is the customer segment, this is the use case, here is the technology we think we're going to apply to a use case. And I keep telling them, swing the club all the way through. Tell me what value is not about faster, cheaper, better, is doing anything in terms of data insight, is doing anything in terms of cost, is doing everything in terms of delivering a new experience. As engineers, they don't think all the way through there at the beginning of their career. Over time, I learned that more and more because I got exposed to other practices, product marketing. I got exposed, obviously, to customers, how they think. If I tell Ravi, okay, I have the best Wi-Fi 6, it has this antenna and this, they're great. It's okay, how many users I can put on that thing? What experience I can deliver? Engineers just tumble immediately because they talk about speeds and feeds, they don't talk about business outcomes. That's the thing you will have to learn over time. And the only way you learn is by talking to customers. As I said, the truth is in the cold face. Figure out the customer life cycle value that's going to bring more than just the technology value itself. And it's not for everyone, I have to say. And this is the challenge we have ourselves right now, because we're talking about becoming an edge-to-cloud company that you can consume as a service, where you can deliver outcomes from all your data. And when we have been selling servers, storage, and networking, and that's not how we're going to sell going forward. I'm going to sell you a service. Server, storage, and networking is embedded in an outcome I deliver to you. And our sales force, and they are here, 3 of them, they have to learn that journey. It's not easy. Not easy.
I hear you. It's real uncomfortable when you start talking outside of the server and boxes. It's very different mindset. So I can understand your challenge, but I know you'll step up, and I know you are stepping up, so we appreciate that. We'll come to the audience. Let's go to Dr. Rosenberg here once. No, please, let's go to you. By the way, let's not forget to congratulate Dr. Rosenberg. He was recently selected as the Michigan CIO of the Year for the healthcare profession by the RB folks. So congratulations on you.
Thank you. Thank you. Antonio, I have a question about how we do our work and where we do our work. One of the things we in technology are particularly focused on is the issue of how we're going to be doing our work going forward, and then how we'll support other people. And there's a provocative editorial in the Wall Street Journal about a year ago saying, instead of collaborative on-premise work or remote work, one of the worst things we might do is pick hybrid, because now we're acquiring the problems that the other two solve and all of that. How does HPE and you
Yeah.
think about how we're going to be doing our work going forward as we emerge out of the pandemic?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how the enterprise works today, right? I said in 2018 that the enterprise of the future will be edge-centric, cloud-enabled, and data-driven. That was maybe a prophecy, I don't know, but what happened to the pandemic, that became clear. The edge is where we live and work, and now is way more distributed than ever. We have seen it. Connectivity, again, becomes super, super critical, right? For those who are in the networking space, they always had in our cloud, data center, a campus, and a branch. Now your home is the micro branch. That the extension of connectivity is essential. But we as a company, we actually went through our own journey to define an edge to office program. And we went through every job function and we said, in this new world, this is where people need to go work. 70+% of the people would not work at the office at all. And 20+%, 25% or so would be working at the office. They have to be at the office because the collaborative interaction, particularly some of the engineering aspect of this, is essential. You cannot replace it with virtual reality. You know, the one thing that I learned over the years is that innovation happens in the moment you connect in the water cooler or you come to a little room and share ideas. Many of our exascale systems, the supercomputers, have been built or designed, conceived on the back of a napkin. 2 or 3 people coming together and say, this is the next generation interconnect fabric. That's the key. And obviously, we have to create, you and I were talking before the conference here, how we are designing those workplaces to basically inspire people to collaborate in a different way. But call it hybrid, I call it edge to office. Everybody has the chance to come to the office, to collaborate, to socialize, 100% of them. But when you give them someone to dock a PC, it's going to be less than 25% of the people. And then obviously, digital technologies plays a big role. But as we were talking to Ravi, you know, social interaction is as important as, you know, just interacting over the Zoom call. And but you have to have a little bit of mandate position, because if you leave it open, it's just going to be a nightmare. And people want to know, actually, in our conversations with Jennifer and our leadership team, employees are asking what I think I should do. It's not like they want to do whatever they want, and they want a framework, and we give them a framework. So that's what we're doing.
Great question. It's really important to provide that framework, that guidance,
Yeah.
because it's true that I'm blessed with incredibly dedicated colleagues who want to do the right thing, and they're looking for some sort of guidance and framework from the leadership, and that's important.
And what happened here now is that because of so much uncertainty and lack of direction, what employees are looking is leadership. They tell me, and I will follow. In most of the cases, they want to have a clear direction. And if you leave it, open for everybody, there are Silicon Valley companies that said, we're going to be all 100% remote. That doesn't work. I don't care. That doesn't work. Or the employees will decide where to work. No, that doesn't work. If you are a remote worker and you want to move from California to Texas or Michigan, it's fine, no problem. But you have been defined to work remotely because that job allows you to do that. But if you don't define that, they're going to struggle.
We always welcome when people want to move to Michigan. So I just want you to know that it's a great state, and Ann Arbor and our surrounding area is just absolutely stunning and beautiful.
Yeah.
I know diversity and inclusion, you mentioned it several times as we were having this conversation. It's important to you. It is absolutely very important to Michigan as well. In fact, this entire week under our DI Summit, we are having many activities going on across the campus. So can you talk about diversity and inclusion from a personal, your own perspective, and from the HPE perspective?
Yeah. Well, I guess, again, was born in Argentina. I'm technically Italian, though I'm a U.S. citizen, citizen of the world. My 2 kids were born in Boise, Idaho. So to me, diversity and we speak 4 languages at home. So it's been always core to who I am. And, remember when you live in Holland, it's a very diverse country, very open country. So I came to the United States, obviously you have the view from outside, and then you become a little bit disappointed, I will say. I tell Jennifer, which obviously is a professional communicator, and again, English not being my first language, I always said, I've been taken to a linguistic experience here. The twist the words and the shift and make what is supposed to be a simple language way more complex. But in the end, to me, it's natural. I mean, I work always with diverse teams. If you look at the call center, we were 800 people, 21 different nationalities, 21 different languages. It was very diverse. Gender, ethnicity. We had it all there. In fact, my first team was a combination of everything you can imagine in terms of diversity. So for me, the way I think about diversity is it's not only the right thing from the human perspective, but it's also a good thing for business, because when you're diverse, it makes you stronger. And diverse company performs better. There is no question. The data is there. It's just that in the last few years, and also for historical reasons, this country has become way too polarized on many issues. And we as a leader, not just the government, the private sector, and the public have to work together. And we as a company have a very clear policy about diversity and inclusion. And when the events that happened last year, we said we are not doing enough. And the first thing we did was to listen, because we don't know how to engage in these conversations. You're not educated enough about having these difficult conversations. And the first thing we did was listen. We have all the ERG groups, the Latinos, the African Americans, and the Asians. And so we had unique groups, right? LGB. And so we listened to all of them, and we selected specific areas where we want to make a big difference by the actions. And, and we selected 4 areas that we're working today, which is super important. But at the same time, when we hire people, we also now mandate diversity slates, because while we make progress, we still have a lot of work to be done. But I'm proud of what we have done so far, including our board. Our board has 12 directors, including myself. It's the most diverse board in corporate America. You have 5 out of the 11, if you exclude me, which are women. 1 is African American. And through the normal, journey of board tenures, we will continue to focus on that. And then in my team, I just hired a new CTO, Fidel Maruso, which is now in charge of the architecture of our transition here as we become an edge-to-cloud company. But when I look at the technical ranks, we have some amazing women that do an amazing job on innovation, but so in many different functions. But we still have work to do. And my dream is to make it core part of the DNA. You can't force people. They have to believe in it. And then you have to instill certain principles along the way.
Very well said. And at this institution, we're very focused on the principles that you laid out and very committed to it. And I shared with you a story about my mother. My mother early on, age 7, told me to look at my hand and look at my 5 fingers. And she said, notice that these fingers are all different size and different shapes. And if you want to get a task done, they have to come together for you to do a task. And she talked about unity in diversity. Diverse fingers coming together to get the job done. And so it was drilled early on. And I'm also very proud of our teams here who are responding and doing the work. So appreciate that. Let's see if we have time for another question here. So let's go to somebody who hasn't asked the question yet. So let's go here. And please identify yourself.
Good morning, Antonio. Welcome to Michigan. My name is Dan Burgess. I'm a member of the ITS Teaching and Learning team. what insights would you like to offer about our education system and how the work that we're doing towards providing a workforce for the future and for organizations such as your own?
Yeah. Well, I think obviously we have some amazing institutions like this one, obviously, that do a remarkable job. But I think, I can give you where I come from, right? So, having no access to everything you have access here. And to me, it's something that we need to appreciate the most, but also think about what is relevant in the future while we give opportunity to people to do what they love. Um, Obviously, the United States education system is unique. Not everybody has access to the best schools, right? As I did it, I went to a public university at night between 7 p.m. and midnight because I was working full time. But I think we just need to think about degrees and careers in different ways. Not everybody has to have a PhD. Not everybody has to have a bachelor degrees. I think a complementary also with apprenticeship in certain areas are going to be absolutely necessary. And then let's remember that we have to stay ahead of the competition here. And therefore, there are certain subjects that we need to incentivize people to think more. Cybersecurity is becoming, very, very important aspect here. I just announced 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago, a partnership with the NSA. When I think about what they do, it's mission critical to the country. But I think about what it entails, right? There is a lot of things that people don't understand it. And ultimately, they need to have the skills to be able to understand it and help the country move forward. But there's other many things. I mean, in the medical space, I'm a director in Anthem. Anthem is the second largest insurance company. Think about the cost of healthcare is insane. And our job in the world is how we lower the cost of healthcare to provide flexibility and choice to everybody. So I think, the education system here is amazing, but I think we need to make it more accessible to many more people that today are not having the opportunity to access that privilege. And then there is different tiers that we should think about it. I mean, one of the things that we do every year, I think we probably bring, Jennifer, 5,000 interns every year just to expose them. We do things with high schools early on. We have a fun program called Code Wars, which actually is high school students that they come for a day. Code is a competition to solve unique problems. But this is where the partnership between the private sector and the education system is so, so important. And we have to have a role also to teach some of the courses as well. In fact, we do one in Texas where we actually provide our engineers go to campus and teach AI or machine learning. And that's a way to incentivize people to be part of this journey as we go forward. But the access in to me, is the biggest issue right now we have to solve. The cost of education is skyrocketing. I can talk about my daughter going to Santa Clara University. I know the bill.
No, I hear you. The cost of education and the access is a big issue. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so I'm going to take the privilege and ask the last question. Antonio, we have talked, and I know mental health and overall wellness is very, very important to you and your employees, obviously, for you as you think about it. So talk in terms of what do you do yourself to take care of yourself in terms of your wellness, and what do you encourage and tell your teams about?
Oh, remember, at the core, I'm still an Italian, and I value work-life balance. I'm trying to pace myself all the time. I have a very stringent routine, which is basically 3 times a week. I do this class, which for those who know is called Lagri, Solid Core, whatever it is an intense strengthening class that you do for 50 minutes. And I do it at 6 in the morning, so I would get up 5:30, walk to the studio, which is around my house. By 7 o'clock, I'm done, have breakfast, and then I start. But by 6 o'clock in the evening, I try to be done. trying to be done and have 2-3 hours downtime before I go to bed. And then, I try to practice my hobbies as much as I can. One of them is playing soccer. So we are a bunch of crazy Argentinians that in the Woodlands we play the league. And it's amazing. These are 50 plus years old men that when you get on the field, it's all about winning. I tell you that. And we expect a lot from the other player, And therefore, I don't care how good you are, you're going to be yelled if you don't deliver on your mission. And that's why we say now we're trying to have fun, but because it's about winning, if you're not going to win, we're going to pick a fight. At least we have fun. So we're trying to do that. Work-life balance, workout regimen is important. And then, spend time with your family as much as you can. My daughter is in Santa Clara. My son is with me in Houston. And it's good to spend time with my son on a daily basis, especially this time because he's in the first year of college, making sure he's on the right track. 2 different kids, 2 different personalities. One very much into, the academics, and raising the bar. The other one is how I can get by with the least amount of work possible. Although super bright, it's just different motivations. But that's what I try to do. And obviously, I like to travel wherever is possible for fun. But I have a great team. And in the end, as I said, it's about clarity of vision and strategy, get involved to go faster. I now lead a big chunk of the transformation of the company. Personally, have selected with my team top 30 employees that are unique skill in different areas. So I don't work directly just with my staff. I work with 30 individuals that can be at any level of the organization, where we are accelerating some of these aspects of the transformation for March next year. And it's fun because I get to roll my sleeves and do what I like to do the most, which is innovate.
That's terrific advice. And I was thinking about maybe playing soccer with you, but I don't want to get yelled at, so I'll change my mind on that one. So,
well, here's a little story. I'm not sure how many know Diego Maradona, who passed away. Diego was the hero for Argentina, obviously won the World Cup and all that. I got the honor to meet him and become fairly close because one of the individuals that play with me soccer every Sunday is actually his nephew. His name is also Diego Maradona. And when you see him, plays like his uncle. And I went to Dubai for work, and he at the time used to live in Dubai. And he said, hey, we're going to play tonight. You want to play? Yeah, of course. I play with Diego Maradona. Who doesn't want to play with Diego Maradona? So his nephew and I played the game. We were all the Argentina against the locals. We beat them, or whatever, 7-1, whatever. Not that it doesn't matter, but it matters for us.
Oh, it looked like it mattered to you.
Yeah, it did. It did. By the time when we started the game, there were like 200 people. By the time we were done, we were 5,000 people watching the game. It's amazing, right? And then it was this play that Diego, with unique skills, but he was already slow. You can see his knees, his ankles, And he missed a shot, which normally is not. And I yell at him. I yell at him, what the hell, I'm here, wait till there. But this is the way we grew up, I don't care how much big titles you want, when you're in the field, you have to deliver. And he did not.
Well, more the reason not to play soccer with Antonio. So. No, but it's been such a pleasure and joy to have you here. We are absolutely grateful and
I appreciate the friendship.
Your humility,
thank you.
I appreciate your friendship as well, and your humility and your, it's just so refreshing. So thank you. And you're always welcome at University of Michigan. And I know you're a Wolverine fan, so we'll host you in the other football, not the
big
football.
House.
Yeah, the big house. So it'll be an experience in itself. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
such
you very much.
such a pleasure. And before we wrap it up, I do want to acknowledge Stephanie Horvath and my executive assistant Vashti for their countless hours of work on making this happen. And the Ross IT team, Carrie Flynn, if you're here, you and your team, you guys are always fabulous. So thank you for allowing us to use this beautiful facility. And thank you all for taking time to come in person. It is such a joy to see all of you. And I hope we can do more of these events and more of you can come and join us as well in future. So thank you all. And let's give a big hand of applause.